there are things, but this was a period of time, again, we're back in the 70s when horror became insanely popular here in the US. And the interesting part about witchcraft and this is just a general note, in witchcraft films or presentations outside of the US, they were allowed to happen before 1977. They were allowed to happen before they were allowed here. So if you remember in some of my chats, we really didn't have horror films, witchcraft representations in horror films prior to 1969 because of our censorship. That was not the case in Italy. That was not the case in Mexico. That was not the case in France and in a lot of other systems. It was here. So this film probably wasn't as surprising in its content in other countries as it probably was here in the US when it came here, because this was going to be the first decade where we really saw this type of film, this subject being treated with the level of gore, with the level of beauty, really, paired with it. You did not see this prior to 1969 in the US. So it would have shocked American viewers more than it would shock viewers outside of the US. That being said, I think it stands at the test of time, and it is a feast for the eyes, as well as an amazingly interesting, gripping story. And also, in so many cinematic ways, it's perfect as a horror film. And so we can talk about that. I'm going to really get my film student hat on here, along with my ballet bun, because it really is. And everybody needs to see this film. If you like horror at all, you need to watch this film and study it closely. That's what I have for you today.
Thank you so much.
I will say, if I may, though, you said it is art, but to quote the witch in the second film, this is not vanity. It is not art. It is magic.
What I'm just going to add to that, and that's that was brilliant. Thank you. I have a quote that I'm going to share at some point today. My favorite quote. Courtney got me thinking. Quotes. I got to find a quote. But I think the other piece of this is the witchcraft, and so even outside. Now, while witches were represented in other film industries and in other cultures in film, this was a period of time where the occult was becoming extremely popular worldwide, especially in the Western world in this way. So you add that to the thing. So this film really fits in with what we were doing here in our cinema. It is better. It is a piece of art on par with Rosemary's Baby and Carrie, where most of our witchcraft were not. And by the 1970s, I can add this in just for a piece of tidbit comparing, by the late 1970s, when this came out, our film industry had moved on from this type of film. So that's just an interesting piece. They were making other things, but this is an auteur film, and an auteur film means it's a piece of art. That was beyond the boundaries of just getting tickets, just wanting to sell tickets. It is beautiful in a way that most films are not. So I'll be quiet now.
Thank you. Okay. Does anybody want to volunteer to go first on their review and talk? Richard-Lael?
I have quotes.
Okay, Courtney. Courtney, we'll go to Courtney and her quotes. Okay, should we tell anybody what this is about, or the brief?
I can tell you what it's about. It's about 90 minutes too long.
Thank you, Elvira.
I have to say that, like, as we've all discovered, together as a group, the 70s were not my decade for films. I don't appreciate them the same way that everybody else does. I'm firmly a 90s kid, so my generation came after, and I think I look at these films differently. But having said that, I see a lot more in this one than I have in any of the ones that we've watched recently, enough so that when it was over, I felt like I did want to see the remake, because I feel like I would connect with the remake differently, because the story was there for me in this one. And there were a couple surprising parts that made me feel like if it was a little bit more modern, then I would have enjoyed it a little bit more. But what I did notice is that as I was watching it, and usually like I sit at my computer and I have my 2 screens up, and when it just to try to stay awake to avoid another Witch of the Sea incident, I will have like a game or something up on one screen that I can ADHD do while I'm paying attention to the movie at the same time. And this movie got to a point where I stopped the game and I just watched the movie, and it was so that to me says volumes for this. But quotes, guys, I was screaming laughing at a lot of parts in this movie. But first of all, Miss Tanner is my favorite human being on earth. And when they were walking up the stairs and Pavlos was coming down and she was like, he's really ugly, isn't he? Don't be afraid to say so. I was like at that point is when I wasn't taking notes, and I had to like get my papers out and write that down and then go back and like retake some notes. But everything Miss Tanner said was literally my favorite. He's been very handsome since he got those false teeth. Like, but I don't know. I just think there was so much to this that like I found it funny enough that it kept my attention. And I know that it probably wasn't supposed to be as funny as I found it, but I laughed a lot. Like Richard-Lael's claws there. When the claws first came out, I screamed, what is this, werewolves now too? Because like there was this like horrifying like hairy arm, and then the eyes that were just the eyes like this. And I was like, what's happening? So I don't know, but the end got me. I will say I was not expecting the end. I thought that I knew what to expect in the end, and then I was pleasantly surprised, and so it tricked me a little bit, and I like that a lot. I have more, but I'll let somebody else go for now, and I'll chime in later with some more.
Okay, good. And for anybody who doesn't know, it's about a ballet. I was so excited because it was about a ballet dancer. I love the ballet. A ballet dancer goes to improve her thing at a fancy, famous, school in Germany. A New York girl, an American girl, and it isn't what she expected. So that's all. And what do you have there, Heather?
An American girl ballerina.
We must get rid of that bitch of an American girl.
And you dress like you look so cute.
What? I didn't hear that.
Well, Courtney gave a quote.
Oh,
Courtney.
I said we must get rid of that bitch of an American girl.
Yeah. No. She's beautiful, and you guys look the same. It's beautiful. You dress the same hair. I love it. Okay, I definitely don't want to go next because I don't. Brandy, you're our new kid. We could throw you in.
Yeah. I love the architecture of each scene because you would see things like in the stairs leading upstairs, you would see the beautiful, it looked like snakes. And whenever they were in the swimming pool and you're looking over the little balcony there, you would see that looked like a devil's little statue thing, it was, I loved all the little things about that in the sets. I thought they were beautiful, as well as the lighting was so beautiful.
It was absolutely gorgeous. And what I loved is the mix of Art Deco with Art Nouveau, the doors with the Trimo, beautiful. And then the bold pinks. And you know what I really loved is the neon red blood. That was fabulous. I hope that one day, if ever I die in a horrible, tragic accident, that my blood looks exactly like that.
I'm sure.
I liked when in the beginning, I actually wrote this down, when her head came through the stained glass window, and it was just like her head was just like poking through when she was dead, and I was like, it's beautiful, but also like ridiculous. Like it was just like her head came out. I don't know. I thought it was funny.
I wanted to comment on what Alicia said. Wishes there was more dancing, because I wish there was more dancing too. The little bit that was there was beautiful. I don't think the lead dancer was really a dancer. The lead actress wasn't really a dancer, so they, skipped. She had to be sick that day. But the little bit that they did show was was beautiful. That the boy was beautiful.
Well, my girlfriend, Miss Tanner, did say that they don't teach ballet at that school.
That's right.
And I yelled out loud, well, then what are we here for?
But you would like in the second, I know nobody else has seen it, but I watched both back to back. Now the remake is 2.5 hours long. It has Tilda Swinton, is that her name?
Swinton.
Tilda Swinton is in it. She plays your girlfriend, Courtney. What's her name? Miss Tanner. She plays Miss Tanner, and they don't do ballet either, but this girl is definitely a dancer. They do modern dance. And Tilda says in this remake, she says, we don't do ballet because we smash things that are beautiful. We break the nose of anything that is beautiful because we're beyond that point now. We need something that is really raw and real. And so that's all I'm going to say on that right now, because I'll talk more about the remake later on.
Okay. Richard-Lael, keep going, or
I can keep going. So I would say, as a former ballet danseur myself, and Ms. Brandy and I, we go way back because Kay was my ballet mistress, and so I was terrible. I was awful in modern. I only did ballet.
Wow.
I could not do anything else. I couldn't do anything else. Now, I wasn't necessarily a great dancer, but I had magic of the face.
That's so I was going to say, Richard-Lael, I grew up doing modern dance only, and we did ballet only to help our modern dance. So I did that through college, dancing in New Jersey and New York City. And I loved the expressiveness of modern dance, and lyrical dance, which is very much a 1970s, 1980s kind of 1960s expressionism. So that's so funny that you could not loosen up to get.
They tried to get me to do hip hop, and it was like
I did hip hop.
There was one of the dancers. Her name was Kara, and they called her Miss Bendy because hip hop and expressive dance, like modern, that was what she did. She was so good at that. And then she would say things like, she'd be like, "Oh my God, Rich." She was a Valley girl, and she was nowhere near the Valley. "Oh my God, Rich." Like, "Oh my God, like, I need you to say, holla at a player." And I would try, and she'd say, "No, holla at a player." And I was like, holler at a player. I don't understand what you're trying to tell me. Yeah. So I was lousy in modern, but I did ballet, and it's been nearly 20 years, and I still remember the floor exercise. Tombe, pas de bourrée, glissade, tour jeté.
Yes, me too. It is built in. I do. I took ballet from childhood up through teens. I took modern from things. My best was tap because I wasn't that graceful for everything else, but I could stomp. I never was good enough on ballet to get to toe, so that was heartbreaking. But I think as much as fun as modern was, the discipline, the beauty of ballet. Yeah.
I would like to talk about, if it's okay, is to talk about the scenes. Many of the scenes are canvases, and I think that's what struck me, why this film is so visually satisfying. The story is well done, and so there's the story is well done and engrossing. So this is what makes it a perfect film in my mind. There are some things where I went, what's going on? He missed a point there, but they're minor. So you have a really engrossing story that is surprising even in this day and age that follows. You also have just one shot after another that are literally canvases of art. So well constructed. Like Brandy said, the colors are amazing, and each scene is so visually rich, with so much stuff going on. And despite the fact that a lot of these scenes are so busy, you still are focused on what is going on, which shows brilliant cinematography, that you could create a scene with so much in the background. And if you think about theater, if you put so much in the background, it's hard to focus on on the characters. He was able to do this. The cinematography is brilliant, where you actually have canvases, each one, with the colors and the large palettes and swashes, with the different textures. And almost what struck me is that you have this mishmash of styles of art. You see Art Nouveau in the architecture. You see Deco in the architecture. You see modern, more contemporary modern stuff from the 60s with the different mods. You see there was also some Escher, I think, on one of the walls. So you see this mishmash of different art styles as well coming together with the color, that it becomes like every time they do a shot, you're in another painting. So I think that's one of the beautiful things. And he's able to time that. The third thing I really struck me about this was he was able to time this, and not all horror films can do this well, is he was able to time the horror perfectly. He gave you the downtime exactly to the minute, to the second right, to get you to jump, to get you to be shocked. And that is something that's so difficult. My very first film mentor in film school said, one of the things, if you want to be a good filmmaker, is to practice the drums, is to study being a drummer, because being a drummer is knowing rhythm, and that's what you need to be a good editor, is rhythm. And this is perfect. If you watch the death scenes, he gives you the build-up, the fear, and then he backs you down perfectly for an amount of time where you can relax before you have the next jump for the fear again. And it is a rhythm, and it is perfect. And so I think that's what makes this an exceptionally good film, an artistic and beautiful and exceptionally good film, is because he's got those three things. He's got the story, he's got the beautiful art to look at, and that's deep, and then he's got the timing. And that's everything in editing, in film editing, is that timing, if you to keep your audience going. So that's my film student discussion for you right now.
Can I jump in on some? Oh, sorry, Richard-Lael, go ahead.
No, go on.
Well, I was just going to say one thing that I do have to give kudos on, one particular scene, and there's a reason I'm going to say this, but the maggot scene. So one of my favorite film studio that makes scary movies is A24. I've talked about it before. One of the things that I have been very vocal about that I like that they do is they put the uncomfortable image on the screen, but they don't flash it just to surprise you. They make you look at it, and they make you sit with it and like really look at it. And so I did appreciate, as much as I hated it and it felt like nails on a chalkboard watching it, that's what it was supposed to do. But like, I do appreciate how that scene in particular, it never stopped. It went on and on and on and on and on and on to the point where it was like, I really felt like I was going to be sick and I have to look away. But like down to like the crunching, because the first thing I thought of when they went up there is they're going to step on the maggots. And I was like, oh God, no, like, oh, the stepping on the maggots. And then it took a second. And then I was like, oh, maybe I'm safe. And then it was the close-up shot of the foot crunching the maggots. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, it came out right out of my brain.
He did not allow you to back away from his fear moments. He did not. And it wasn't, and I had to turn away for a couple of the more gory moments, but he did not. He kept you right there brilliantly. And what I loved also, sorry, I can't stop talking about how cinematically beautiful this is. He isolated the victim every time right before they, whether it was the guy out in the middle of the square, for so long he was isolated, or when she was in that room, when she was trying to find a way out, totally isolated with the lighting and the darkness. I mean, it's just, or when the first girl's running, she's isolated. So it is textbook horror filmmaking.
Okay, I'm going to tell you why I couldn't get everything that you guys were talking about. It's because I couldn't get it on my TV and I watched it on my phone.
Oh,
that is a big film where you have to see, and I'm like squinching in, going, I think it's red. Wait, are those maggots? And the music was so loud, and it was dubbed. Obviously, it was dubbed, but so all the really good parts got missing on me. because I was on a small screen and it was late. And all the really bad parts, like the music was too loud, and I didn't get to see the beauty art that you're talking about, Heather. All I saw was the worst acting I've ever seen, the worst sound I've ever seen, and really gross stuff. And I can't stand anybody who's mean to dogs. So the dog thing, that was scary. That courtyard thing was really scary. But had I been high, if somebody told me to get high on my phone, I would have been fine. I was like, yeah, Red, what?
And that's the thing too. As much as I love the music, I found that the music was so loud, it was so overdubbed, and then it was you're getting, it's all the music, and then she opens a door and then the music is gone, and you go, wait, did the film skip? Because I
read that he blasted the music while they were filming. They never taped audio because they spoke different language, but they over blasted the music to make the actors themselves uncomfortable. But I was uncomfortable because I'm not an actor.
Can I say something controversial?
Yeah.
Sorry. I was just gonna, something controversial for me, for this group, right, is that some of those, like whenever they were doing something witchy and it literally just it would be like nothing, and then like an orgy, a magic orgy was happening somewhere, and I was waiting for it to happen, and I thought that there was going to be a lot more naked people, and I was a little upset that there was not any naked people. And I know that's so shocking coming from me, the prude, but
no, I think that's a good, because I was expecting it as well, and I hadn't seen this one yet because it wasn't part of my stuff, and amazingly I had never seen this film in all my years of studying film because it is so classic. But it's the 1970s horror. You would have expected nudity,
especially surrounding girl dancers.
Yeah,
in the 70s.
Yeah.
So yes, kudos to them for that.
Yeah. I do agree with Patti. I think said it when my power got funky, is that you said there wasn't enough dancing, and I agree. I think it would have been nice if he had put a little bit more dancing in there, but I agree. I think the main character was not a dancer, so they had to get around that. I would have liked to see a little more dancing because it's just so pretty.
On that, I will, none of you have seen this film, but the remake, there is so much dancing, there's so much nudity, and there's so much more magic and actual witchcraft. So as far as you haven't seen it, so I can't give too much away, but the remake 2018, I think, is I like it for different reasons. So it's not as visually beautiful. It takes place in 1977, the year that the original one came out. It takes place in 1977 in Berlin. And so you've got the East and West Berlin dichotomy going on. And then this girl, she the American girl, she actually was raised as a Mennonite, and her family was very, very religious, very conservative. And then she just wanted to go dance in Berlin. That's all she ever wanted since she was a little girl. And so she's already got this religious trauma. And then she breaks from her family and she just goes to New York, where she sees Tilda Swinton's character, Miss Tanner, perform on stage. And she memorizes this dance just from watching it a couple of times on stage. And then also just by reading about it, she was able to perfectly memorize the dance. There's a lot of dancing. It's modern, but there's a lot of dance. It's beautiful. There's a lot of nudity, and the nudity actually works in this film. Like it's beautiful. You will love it. It's different reasons. It's a different film. It's a completely different film. The plot line is a little bit different. I cannot recommend that enough. I love both. You are missing out by only watching one. They're both really, really good films.
From what I understand is, and I didn't get the details on why, we'll have to look that up, but Argento film. So, and I can't, I have to I'm not going to speculate because I haven't seen the second one, but I think he just recently came out and said it. I think the notes that I found are from like within the last week that he came out, or maybe they're just talking about it now, but he did not like the second film, which, is not surprising. I mean,
not surprising, but also because the horror is more palpable. So in his original film, it's very artistic, as we said, and it's perfectly timed, and it's scary in and of itself. But what I do give him is that you don't actually see the witch. You see her claws. You see the little elements. But in this film, you actually get a chance to see the witch, and she is as grotesque as one would imagine, which in showing the monster, it takes away from the power of the monster. So, and maybe that's what it is. Also, it is 2.5 hours long. It's a very long film. It's entertaining. I feel like it's a mix of Black Swan and The Shining. So if you are a fan of either of those, you will really like the remake.
See, that's exactly what I was expecting from this one going into it, from what I had heard of. And I think what I had heard about it, I heard of the new one. So that tracks. But that's what I was expecting, like Black Swan with more horror and more gore and more blood. And I feel like that missed a little bit. I also think, not to like completely derail this, but like part of what I struggled with so much in this movie was that Susie was so unlikable. For me, she was the most unlikable like main character I've ever come across. And I always I love that in these witch movies that we talk about, that like coming into their own power moment and like all that. We've talked about that before. And I didn't want to see that in this movie. I wanted her to die. It was just, I like, not really, but you know what I mean. Like, I didn't want to see her win. I was rooting for the evil in the movie because she was so painful to watch. She was so uncomfortable. Maybe that was part of it, and I just missed that. But like,
she did remind me a little bit of Margot Kidder. Like even on the acting level, she was, and you know, I'm not going to say anything bad about Margot Kidder, excepting the fact that I just did. Her acting was along the lines of Margot Kidder.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I don't think she was the most likable. You weren't really rooting for her. I think that was more a function in my mind of the acting than it was the character. A different actress could have done more to make her a little bit more endearing. So I think there was that. You don't feel an affinity for her that you maybe should. It's not a perfect film,
but there was. I did feel for her when she comes in the opening scene, and it's pouring down rain, and she's trying to get a taxi, and she finally, after the third or fourth car goes by, she finally gets a cab, and then she gets in and she tells the driver in perfect German, "I want to go to this place," and he says, "What?" And she says it again, and he says, "What?" And so she has to show him, and then he repeats verbatim the word that she said in German, as if he didn't understand where she was going.
Yeah,
I thought that was clever. That was hilarious to me.
I thought so too. That was the first moment that stood out in me, and I didn't have to have it on a big screen.
See, and I think like for me, it didn't grab me in the beginning at all. Like I was looking at it thinking, what fever dream did I wake up into? And it was, I think it was hard for me to grasp from the get-go. Then in addition to that, it wasn't even like I could get into it because I loved the main character. I got into it because Miss Tanner was my favorite. But then the only one I'm connecting with at this point is one of the bad guys. Like, so that was hard to grapple with the whole time, and having it keep my attention. But also, raging ADHD is my life, and like all of the things, it was almost too much. Like, it was beautiful to look at, but I could barely look at it because I was distracted by the music, or I was distracted by the acting, or I was distracted by like whatever the bright red blood, like trying to figure out what I thought it looked like. Was it throw up? Was it ketchup? Was it paint? Like, what is it? So I don't know. I didn't hate it, I guess, but it was just I look forward to watching the remake because I feel like maybe I'll connect with that better.
You know, it's something that just popped into my head while you were talking about all the stuff going on in the background, and what I said earlier. It's kind of fun that the place where the witches hide are within that busyness. The hidden room, you had to get through all of that busyness in the background to get to where the magic was happening. So I think I just blacked out again.
No, you're still here. I
No,
see.
you're there.
Okay, so I can't. Oh, there you go. My screen, my actual monitor keeps going black. So all of a sudden, I can hear you guys, but I can't see you. So
Mine keeps doing that too.
Okay, so I'll just assume.
I think it's just jiggle your mouse every once in a while because I think my screen keeps going to sleep because it's, even though your screen is having activity on it, you're not doing anything on your computer.
It's weird. I've never had that happen. So I'll just keep talking.
Yeah.
So my favorite quote, getting to the magic and the representation of the cult here, which of course is negative, and you have a lot of occult tropes in here to suggest stuff. You have symbols here and there. You have things like bats coming in. You have things like maggots. You have a lot of that horror stuff that's going to suggest it. Then she goes, and one of the best horror tropes you find in a lot of horror movies is the scared young girl needs to find out what's going on, so she's got to go to an expert, a PhD, a librarian. It's always male. So of course here she goes to a psychologist, and he says something like he's describing, and he's describing. She goes to two actually, and he says to her something like, "Is witchcraft real?" And he says it's part of this. It's part of a branch of psychology. And this was, and I'm not going to say it right because I didn't write it down, but he said, bad luck is not caused by broken mirrors. It's caused by broken minds. I can't do that like Courtney would do it, but the
occult.
The occult, yeah.
I wrote it down. Occult.
Occult. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, occult. That's right.
I'm saying it weird. I was like, oh God, come on.
So that was my favorite quote. That bad luck is not caused. Everyone remember this, by broken mirrors. It's caused by broken minds. So that was my favorite quote. And I think this is very much obviously representing magic and witchcraft in a negative way. It wasn't I think Satan was only mentioned once, I think, but it very much had that whole 70s ceremonial magic. This is not fantasy magic. This is not inherited magic like you find in like a Sabrina or a Bewitched. This is the ceremonial magic, which was very popular in movies in the 70s. So you see that. You don't get a whole lot of it though. You don't, like you said, we don't get to see covens and circle dancing and all the stuff you see in some other 70s movies, or Satan coming in. That happens in 70s movies too. But it was just that last part, which I was really surprised we wouldn't get to see a little bit more. And you barely see anything. You get a creepy guy. You get an old woman who's holding a pyramid. You get that little boy who doesn't speak, that just wanders around. You get a lot of that. Even that Mrs. Tanner, who's this, she's such a German trope. You love her. The fancy woman, all the stuff. So
yeah, it reminded me a little bit of Initiation of Sarah, in like our American one. It reminded me of that, and a girl going off to school and being alone, and all of a sudden everyone's witches.
It's very common. That was, I think that movie was around this time too. That was like a 76 or 77. And you also have young girls in white flowy stuff. A lot of white light color. That's very much another horror trope for ceremonial occult films. And of course, walking in from the darkness into the red color every time they open their that is a sign that's a signature of hell, evil, satanic worship, the black and red.
In the remake, the girls are more in red than they are in white, which I also like because it shows that, again, it's supposed to be evil to wear red. But also, I like the fact, in my mind, as it pertains to witchcraft, I think that ballet, I think that theater, I think that it is magic. I think that it is witchcraft. And I think that a lot of times performers, actors, they don't even know that they are channeling energies. They perfectly can impersonate somebody, and they take on the mannerisms, and they become that person, someone whom they may never have met. They become that person. And I think that they are oftentimes actors, performers, dancers, singers are channeling spirits that they don't realize that they're doing. That's my thought.
And we
Can
do
I hop-
stand in a circle before we go on, all holding hands.
I agree wholeheartedly. The stuff that, I agree wholeheartedly, Richard-Lael. You know, both of us being mediums, both of us knowing how to do that, and having acting background, they're channeling. Musicians, actors, painters.
Can I change the subject real quick? I just want to hop back to one of the comments.
Okay.
Lauren Morgan Richard said, supposedly the original script was meant for children, but the characters are 20-something. He did not, however, change much of the dialogue, which is why some of them still talk like children. That, to me, that validates all the feelings that I have. I feel like when I saw that flash up there, I was like, oh, there it is. Because there was things that they would say, like, when you're talking about the young girl goes away to school, but she was talking about, oh, I'm in boarding school, like a young girl. And then when just like little things, like she didn't want to move into the school, she wanted to stay with the girl in the beginning, and she was being all like, bratty about it. Like she was bratty, and I think that might be it. Like that makes a lot of sense to me, that if that's the way that the script was originally, like that's how she was acting. So I just wanted to say thank you for that comment, because that made it click for me that's probably why it didn't click for me.
I think you're right, Court. I think you're right, because the like boarding school stuff and all that too sounded like kids. Is that it?
Also, there was one scene that I wrote down. I just want to read you what I wrote down, because I think I was writing it down and then I saw where it was going, so it was different. But I was like, I wrote down the theater lighting during the body and blood of Helena, or Elena, whatever her name was, where she was like, I was like, what is this? Like they were doing like the body, like it reminded me of church, like the body and blood of Christ, where she was like taking a little nibble of something and then taking a sip from the cup. But then it was like the regular lighting, and then it was stage lighting, and I was like, so distracting, but like enough to make me write it down. Like, what? This is so dramatic. Yeah, I don't know. I just thought that was funny. The symbolism of that too.
That's true. Robert, I don't think they meant it was supposed to be a children's film. I think they meant that the dancers were supposed to be children.
Younger.
Younger. Yeah.
I'd like to go back to something Richard-Lael said about actors being channeling. And I think we were just discussing that. Brandy and Patti said, reinforce that. And it reminded me of a conversation I had with a witch from Canada who was on, and I may have mentioned this in the past, but she was on the set of The Craft Legacy. And she was there to help make sure as they staged the scenes and filmed them, that the settings were proper, right? When they did the rituals. So she wasn't there to help the writing. That had been helped. Another witch had been involved with that. She was actually on the set. So she was there prior to the scenes with rituals, and she would work with the actors, get them ready for their parts, make sure they're holding their hands properly, whether it's this way or whatever, make sure they're using the right inflections, and make sure they understand the magic of it. But what's interesting, okay, that sounds okay. Yeah. So what's that have to do with channeling? What is interesting, she said to me, is that when you are doing magic in the universe do not know whether you're acting or whether you're really doing magic, whether you're in a ceremonial sacred circle doing this thing. So she was there not only to help the actors portray witches accurately in 2020 when Legacy came out, but she was also there to make sure that if they did channel something, she was there to make sure the scene was protected, the set was protected. So she would do workings before they started in the morning, which could have been at 4 in the morning, whenever it was, and to make sure the energy was brought down after the day was done and they closed for the day. So she was there doing that, and she was there during the scenes, watching the scenes to make sure the energy was okay and was healthy, that nothing was channeled that was negative, that couldn't be controlled. So she was on set doing that work as well. So that sort of speaks to your point, I think, that not only are the arts ways to channel energy and whatnot, spell work and stuff, but they are also, if you're doing scenes in witch films where you do have spell work being done or psychic work being done, you could potentially accidentally, as an actor and not as a witch, actually do the spell. So
yeah, I on that point completely, yes, 100%. Spirit. My little incident when somebody caught on fire in one of my seances at Marilyn Manson's house, my story I tell all the time, and the guy who caught on fire was so intrigued by spontaneous combustion, he wrote a script about it. This TV medium who did every TV show, yet doing another reality show, and then a portal opened, and then it becomes a horror film, a funny horror film, the kind of like, I wish they would do it and then we could do it. But he wrote it with Stephen Norrington, the guy from League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and the Blade series. So it's really good. But I sat down with him for 5 hours and I'm like, Lauren, you can't say that on camera. He's like, but Patti, you said it. I go, I know I said it. That does something. Those exact sounds, that exact chant opens a portal. And yes, spirits, deities, demons don't know the difference of an actor reading a script, a method actor, whatever, and somebody really doing it. They don't know. And that's why horror films get cursed all the time. And you don't want all the actors die at 27 or whatever that is. So if they ever do it, I changed all the words that they sound just as scary or just as magical, but they're not going to open any portals to hell.
Mm-hmm. I think that's key to having an occult consultant on the set. But go ahead, Richard. No.
I was going to say on that of opening portals. I had a start where I was a celebrity impersonator. Not only did I play Freddie Mercury and Willy Wonka, and I played celebrities, but I always had to have a talisman that was mine so that I could bring myself back to my energy. Because far too often when there are impersonators, they lose who they are and they become solely the person that they're playing. Also with method actors too. We talk about the warnings that what's his name? Heath Ledger was given by Jack Nicholson before he played the Joker. But I knew of some people. I knew a woman who played Marilyn Monroe. That was all she did for a long time. And you would call her at 3:00 in the morning, or she'd call and she'd always talk like this, honey. But it turns out that she, at the age that Marilyn Monroe was when she passed away, she booked a hotel room. She stripped herself naked and she overdosed so that she would be found in the same exact position, dead, as the real Marilyn. And so when you are an actor, when you are performing, when you have to hold on to something that is yourself. You have to have safety, not just in opening portals, but even opening portals in the mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow. How sad that is.
That's powerful.
And even the tools that you use, they don't know that it's not real. And I had that experience once as a young witch. I was acting with my tarot cards and they didn't like it and they disappeared, never to be found again. And so I was like, I will never do that again. I will always be respectful.
I think that's key. And I actually expected the dance in this movie to actually be the act of dancing to be part of magic in this movie. I thought somehow that would be part of the invocation of some kind of magic, the witchcraft, that they would include that. I thought that was going to be part of what they were enticing the dance. I had this whole other horror movie.
It is in the remake. The dance in the remake is part of their magic. It's part of their ritual in the
Right.
remake. It's a different film. I like them both for different reasons.
And I think that's really cool. I haven't seen the new movie, as I said, but I think the dance and art, and I say this to my authors who I work with all the time, and I also sing and have danced my whole life, and so that is very much a big part of magic, that it can create magic in and of itself. So I think I really expected that to be more part of that. I think that would be a very cool, and it has, you do see dancing but it was very clear this movie did not have an occult consultant, did not have any, it is not grounded in any real witchcraft whatsoever, other than sensational 1970s, oh my goodness, let's put something satanic witchcraft in this movie. And they used all of the tropes of that. So this didn't have anything that would be connected to anything real. Some of our early 70s ones did. This one did not.
All right. Are we ready to vote? I guess so.
I think
All
so.
right. Now that means all of you guys, any of you who watched it, or just even vote on what you've heard us talking about, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So wands up, wands down, or now we've come up with all sorts of things in the middle. So we've gotten very creative with our wands up and wands down. So Suspiria, wands up, wands down.
Wands up on this one.
Wands up. Patti, I want to hear your wands up or wands down when you watch it on a bigger screen, just to see
I know
it a little bit more.
I know. I should do, but mine should only half count.
No,
really because no. I knew. I mean, I could tell enough on my tiny screen that this is probably the wrong film to be seeing here.
But also, if you watched the remake, then you would have a better appreciation for this film too.
Okay, we're getting some wands up, wands down, wands up. This is a mixed crowd. We see this. Wands way up, wands down. So we're really mixed. And again, I know mine only should count for a half wand down.
Yeah, but you know what, Patti? I'm glad that it's not just me this time. So I appreciate where your wand is positioned right now.
You fully count, Patti. It doesn't matter.
All right. Well, I don't know. I'm now really intrigued. So we're going to have to put the remake on our list too.
I can't wait to watch that. I'm very excited to watch it.
I don't really normally like remakes. I think that they can be a little bit overdone. And when Rob, our producer, asked, he said, well, are you going to watch the remake? Because I wrote him, I said, I love this movie. And he says, are you going to watch the remake? And I said, no, I don't think so, because I was so afraid of the film was not, I mean, it's not a perfect film, but it's visually beautiful. The music was beautiful. The horror scenes the timing was great. And I thought, I don't want anything to spoil that version. But then when I watched the remake, I went, oh, I had a bigger appreciation for it. So, and someone said in the comments earlier, they said that the director was not doing a direct remake, but paying homage to the original one. And that, I think, is much better.
So as somebody who's seen both, and for all our people who haven't seen any, do you recommend seeing them in order?
Yes, I would. Watch the 1977 and then watch the 2018.
Okay.
It's if you have 2.5 hours for the 2018 one and about 90 minutes too much for the first one.
All right. Well, we have a few minutes left. So let's everybody check. We didn't check in the beginning. Tell everybody where they can find you, social media, websites, any events that you have coming up. Let's start with our beautiful guest. And we really want to thank you, Brandy, for coming on with us. Where can people find you? What's going on?
Yes, I'm every day at Spellbound Boutique, and that's Spellbound Boutique Carthage on Instagram. That's where I am almost every single day, reading tarot cards and mixing up little potions for everyone.
And I wanted to say, Brandy got a tattoo that I wanted to show.
I did.
Yeah,
got a new one. Yes. And I got
Beautiful.
that at Hex House in Carthage by the beautiful Sarah.
Where is Carthage?
Carthage, Missouri.
Okay. I
It's,
have no idea.
it's actually, you weren't here, Patty, when we brought Brandy before. Brandy is my longest friendship, and she is the person who taught me to accept my magic and my witchcraft.
Yay.
And so she is my longest. I don't say the oldest, but she's my longest friendship. And so we go way back. And Brandy, of course, did some amazing makeup for Austin Powers and George of the Jungle and the X-Files. And she was one of my very first directors. And she has always been one of my dearest friends. And I am so grateful that she exists. That's what I'm.
Oh,
Thank you.
well, thank you. So everybody check her out. All right, Courtney.
Me. Guys, I have something very exciting to share. I went and saw Beetlejuice the musical, Broadway in Boston. Oh, wrong side. It was the best show I've ever seen in my whole life. I took my son last Saturday. We went to the 8:00 show, and my face hurt for 2 days from the smiling and the laughing from watching it. It was so good. It's not in Boston anymore, but go see it if you can. I was screaming with laughter. The songs were great. I haven't stopped listening to them. And it's the first time I've seen like an actual theater production in like a long time. So I was very excited about that. And also I'm wearing a new piece of Mystery Control merch. This is the shirt that I requested after Rosemary's Baby, and it's fantastic. It came today, so that was very exciting. Other than that's all I got going on for now, but you can find me at the themes on all the socials and Scared and Alone, scaredandalone.com or Scared Alone Live. I am Ghostfate, and you can check out, all my recent trauma there.
Thank you very much. Richard-Lael.
So I am easy to be found. You can find me anywhere Gentlemen Psychics are sold. Boy band witches, maybe that's me.
Don't get us going.
We need a song. We
don't have the licensing.
So yes, I'm kind of being a little bit of a recluse right now, working a few little things. I get to go to a Gatsby party. Yawn. I get to go to a Gatsby party over the weekend, but they don't want me. They just want my car. So that, whatever, that's fine. Free ticket, whatever. But yeah, anywhere, thegentlemanpsychic.com, Richard-Lael, Lillard. Richard-Lael is one name, not two. If I were just Richard, I'd be a dick. So that's about all I have. On to somebody else.
Okay. Heather.
Everything I have going on can be found at my website, heathergreene.net. There you can find my socials, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I post on all of them periodically when I can. I am a journalist, as you might know, and you can find my articles, links to my articles, couple here and there a month, always covering witchcraft and the occult and tarot and all kinds of things in that arena. So I've got a few that I'm working on right now. So stay tuned for those. They'll be posted on usually on Religion News Service is where most of mine go. So it's pretty exciting. And also just popped up is thebewitchedhome.com. I help with some of the designs and the witchy consulting for that site. It is home decor for the discerning witch in your life. Great for gifts. Oh, look at that. We've got one, right? Here's one. These are lovely cell phone holders. Well, or you can actually put like a mini grimoire on them. We actually have grimoire size ones that are bigger, and you can put your grimoire on them or your recipe book when you're stirring your cauldron. But we've got all kinds of other fun stuff on there as well. Ooh, yeah, look at that.
Look,
Thank
we
you.
all have them right here. Isn't that
Yeah.
funny?
It's fun because probably we put our phones on them. So, tarot boxes, all kinds of decor, because witches need home decor too.
Yes.
So that's what that is. And other than that, I'm getting ready again. I'm on the board for Mystic South in Atlanta. So people in the Southeast, easy drive. Like if you happen to live in Carthage, and you may want to take a trip to Atlanta to come visit us for a fun with 500 of your closest witchy friends for 3 days in Atlanta is in July. And yeah, there's my book. Thank you. Lights, Camera, Witchcraft. Get that. And you can read along as we talk about movies.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, it's a great book.
Thank
Big.
you.
It's big. Okay, my name is Patti Negri, pattynegri.com, and you can get to all my socials from there. I have a book, Old World Magic for the Modern World. You can get it on my website or on Amazon, ebook, audiobook, print. This next week, if anybody's in the Dallas area, I'm going to be at Miracles of Joy in Louisville, doing workshops, seances, private readings. I'm really excited. It's a beautiful little shop in like suburban Dallas area. The next weekend, I will be at Pacific Coast Paracon in Ventura, California, at this beautiful old haunted 1930s, one of those big movie palaces or theater palaces, whatever they were. Perfectly Haunted with Stefan Brigatti, dear great paranormal investigator, one of the teachers at our school, University Magicus, as is Richard-Lael. And then the week after that, I'm going to be in Las Vegas at a place called the Halloween Store and Haunted Tea Room. So I'm really excited. That just booked and is sold out immediately. So the Halloween Store and Haunted Tea Room, it looks really great. Again, doing workshops, seances, private readings. And then I'm home for a few weeks, which is great. But check it out. Check out our school, universitymagicus.com or magicu.org. You can learn witchcraft, psychic development, mediumship, psychic protection. Richard-Lael is one of our amazing teachers. I teach. Father Sebastian teaches vampirism. We teach goddess work. We teach all different styles. We have 20 teachers and all of slightly different belief systems, or very different belief systems, actually. We don't teach one thing. It's very eclectic as on purpose. And then make sure everybody, because you want to look cute like Courtney, go to mysterycontrol.com. And yes, you could get Witches Movie Coven merch. You could get t-shirts. You could get blankies to wrap up in and cloaks. You could also get things for Scared and Alone. You could also get to my new Patti Spellcaster page where I work with a lot of sigils and symbols and words. And of course, my just launching the thing I'm most proud of, Patti's Power Panties, because not just superheroes need magical underwear. Change your underworld. I blew it. Change your underwear, change your world. We have protection, love, passion, inspiration, intuition. It's great. And they all come with a spell. They all have the right colors. They're all the right sigils. So really, the easiest part of your wardrobe to change, and everybody who's got them so far literally says that they're magic. So let's check it all out. Match all of us. Let's go get some clothes. Let's go get some panties for everybody. I want to get a pair for Black. He wears them at conventions. He wore them at the last convention. Little big. So anyway, we want to thank everybody for tuning in. Tell your friends, tell us what you want, what films you want. And in those last few seconds, we have one more thing to do. And I guess hope everybody does it with it. What do witches do? We cackle. 1, 2, 3. Yeah!